The prison even Titans feared. Picture a place so dark that the gods themselves shuddered, just saying its name out loud. Not hell, not death, something far worse. This is where the gods sent the ones they couldn't forgive, and couldn't bring themselves to forget. Before Olympus, before time itself, there was Tartarus. When the ancient Greeks looked up at a sky full of stars, they didn't see beauty. They felt watched, like something above was judging them, and something below was waiting for them, because they understood something we've managed to forget. There is a darkness underneath the darkness. They called it Tartarus. And here's what messes with your head. It wasn't just a place. It was a being. A primordial entity that existed before the gods of Olympus were ever born. In the beginning, according to the Greek poet Hesiod, there was nothing but chaos. A shapeless void. No direction. No time. No sound. And out of that chaos, four primordial forces emerged. Not gods. Forces. Concepts so fundamental that the universe had to give them form just to keep existing. Gaia, the earth. Eros, desire. Erebus, the primal darkness. And Tartarus. But Tartarus was different from the others. Gaia could be seen. Eros could be felt. Erebus could at least be perceived. Tartarus was the thing that should never be seen, felt, or perceived. It was absolute absence. The space between being and nothing. It wasn't a place you went to. It was a place that swallowed you. Think about it this way. If the universe were an ocean, Tartarus would be the bottom of the bottom. Not the continental shelf. Not the deep ocean. The point where the pressure is so absolute that even the light of existence gets crushed flat and dies. Greek poets tried to describe just how far down it went. They said that if you dropped a bronze anvil from the surface of the earth, it would fall for 9 full days and 9 full nights before it hit the floor of Tartarus. 9 days. Falling without stopping. In total darkness. No sound. No echo. Just the eternal feeling of dropping, with no end in sight. And when you finally hit the bottom, what was waiting for you was worse than the fall. The gods built it to be inescapable. They succeeded. Its walls were bronze. Its gates were iron. And wrapped around everything, 3 thick layers of night, dense as a living thing, coiled over itself like the scales of some cosmic serpent. Even gods who wandered too close to its edges felt something they weren't supposed to feel. Fear. The primal kind. The kind that isn't learned. The kind that's burned into the soul before you're even born. To understand why Tartarus matters, you need to understand the first great betrayal in the history of the cosmos. The Titans. The lords of the world before the Olympian gods ever took power. Kronos, the most powerful of all, the one who devoured his own children out of sheer terror of losing his throne. Because here's the dark truth about absolute power. It's always afraid. Always. Doesn't matter how much you control. Doesn't matter how untouchable you think you are. The fear of losing everything lives right at the core of every crown that's ever existed. Kronos knew this. A prophecy told him he'd be overthrown by one of his own kids. So one by one, he swallowed them. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. Swallowed them whole. Alive. Conscious. Every single one. Can you imagine being trapped inside your own father? Not in a dream. In reality. Wide awake. Feeling time pass. No light. No space. No possible way out. That was the reality waiting for the children of Kronos. But Zeus escaped. His mother Rhea swapped him out for a stone wrapped in cloth. Kronos swallowed it without a second thought. Because absolute power also makes you blind. Zeus grew up in secret. And when the moment came, when the Titanomachy erupted, that 10-year war that shook the very foundations of the universe, Tartarus finally showed its true purpose. The Olympian gods won. And the fallen titans needed somewhere to go. Not death. The immortals can't die that easily. They needed something far worse. They needed Tartarus. Being immortal in a place of eternal torment isn't power. It's a sentence. Zeus hurled them into the abyss. Kronos, the godfather who'd eaten his own children, along with every titan who'd sworn loyalty to the old order. Cast down. Chained. Sunk into a darkness that no being should ever have to know. And to make sure they never got out, Zeus assigned guardians. The Centimanes. Giants with 100 arms and 50 heads each. Not because they were cruel, but because Tartarus needed the kind of guardian that couldn't be persuaded, couldn't be corrupted, and couldn't feel pity. Only vigilance. Only eternity. But the Titans weren't the only ones who ended up in Tartarus. The gods were meticulous when it came to punishment. And they had an imagination for horror that no human mind could match. Tantalus. A king who was actually invited to dine at the gods' table. An honor given to only the most exceptional mortals who ever lived. And he betrayed it in the most unforgivable way imaginable. He murdered his own son, Pelops, cooked him, and served him as a feast to the Olympians, just to test whether they were truly all-knowing. They were. And his punishment was engineered with surgical precision to turn every single moment of his existence into psychological agony. Standing in a lake. Water up to his chin. Fruit hanging just above his head. And never, not once, able to reach either one. Every time he bent down to drink, the water pulled back. Every time he reached up for the fruit, the wind pushed the branch away. This wasn't physical hunger. It was something so much crueler. The eternal hope of relief, paired with the absolute certainty that it would never come. That's Tantalus. And his name is where we get our word. To tantalize. To offer something desperately wanted, and never deliver it. Then there's Sisyphus, the craftiest king who ever lived. The man who cheated death twice. He literally chained up Thanatos, the god of death, so that no one on earth could die. He talked Persephone into letting him return to the land of the living on a technicality. Then just didn't go back until the gods had to drag him away themselves. The sharpest mind of his era. Which is exactly why his punishment was designed so perfectly to destroy that very mind. One boulder, one hill, and eternity. Push an enormous rock up to the top of a hill. Every day, every hour, with everything he's got. And right when he's almost at the top, the rock rolls back down, and he has to start over. Forever. Albert Camus wrote an entire philosophical essay about Sisyphus. Because his punishment isn't just physical. It's existential. It's the horror of a life with no purpose. Of effort that leads nowhere. Of pouring everything you have into a goal you will never reach. How many of us have felt that at some point in our lives? That's the dark genius of Greek mythology. The monsters are metaphors. The tortures are mirrors. And then there's Ixion, the first murderer in all of Greek history. The man who killed his own father-in-law to get out of paying the bride price he'd promised. Zeus, in a show of mercy that only gods can afford, wiped his crime clean and invited him to Olympus itself. And at Olympus, Ixion tried to seduce Hera, Zeus's wife. His punishment: chained to a wheel of fire that spins forever. No stopping. No rest. Burning and spinning and burning and spinning. Across the full length of eternity. Pause. Sometimes the mercy of the gods is more dangerous than their wrath. But I want you to stop for a second. I want you to really feel this one. Not the fire. Not the chains. Not the endless labor. Something far more disturbing than any of that. Consciousness. Every single soul condemned to Tartarus was completely, perfectly conscious. Not asleep. Not sedated. Not wrapped in some merciful fog of unawareness. Fully awake. Fully present. Experiencing every single second of their eternity with the exact same razor-sharp clarity as the very first moment. Tantalus remembers exactly what water tastes like. What fruit feels like on his tongue. He hasn't forgotten. He will never forget. And that memory, that perfect, vivid, tormenting memory, is part of the punishment. Sisyphus remembers every victory he ever pulled off in life. Every time he outsmarted death. Every time he beat the odds. And now he's chained to perpetual defeat. With a flawless memory of everything he was once capable of achieving. The Titans, buried in the deepest pit of the abyss, remember the sun. They remember what it felt like to rule the world. The warmth. The glory. The power. And they're in absolute darkness. Shackled. With nothing but those memories to keep them company for all of time. The greatest torment isn't the pain. It's the memory of when there was none. There's something about Tartarus that the Greeks understood at a depth that makes us genuinely uncomfortable. True eternity isn't time passing. It's time that refuses to pass. Eternity means every single moment hits just as hard as the first one. No getting used to it. No tolerance build-up. None of the blessed numbness that makes human suffering survivable. We can endure pain because time softens it. Because the mind learns to tune things out. Because the body builds up defenses. But in Tartarus, none of those defenses work. You're immortal. Your mind can't forget. Your body can't adapt. Just the horror. Fresh. Perpetual. Perfectly preserved. Like an insect trapped in amber. Forever frozen at the peak of its own agony. And the most terrifying part? It was designed that way. Deliberately. Artfully. By beings who knew exactly what they were doing. The Greek gods weren't benevolent. They were powerful. And there is a massive, unbridgeable difference between those two things. Pause. Tartarus isn't just a Greek myth. It's a mirror. Because human beings have been building their own versions of Tartarus throughout history. Dungeons. Solitary confinement cells. Camps where we send the ones we can't forgive and don't want to look at anymore. Places engineered not to rehabilitate, but to contain, to punish, to make time itself into the executioner. The question isn't whether Tartarus existed. The question is whether we've ever stopped needing it. What does it say about us that the gods invented it, and we keep reinventing it? Maybe that's why this story survived for thousands of years. Pause. Not because people feared Tartarus, but because somewhere deep down, they recognized it. And maybe the darkest prison was never beneath the earth. Maybe it was always inside us.